This is Calcat the Calcatster, and this is another review of a very short trek. The Trek Yards guys kind of liked the Skin a Cat story. Of course, one of them is British and very subtle, satirical. The other one is Canadian and very subtle and satirical. So they probably just thought, oh, it's so subtle. It really wasn't, though. But American humor is more avant-garde. American humor is more pie in the face kind of thing. American humor is more punching down and being mean spirited to other people. That's funny to them. Well, in the vein of that, they have done an episode of Very Short Treks where it gets even more mean spirited. They spoof, they essentially kind of rip off an old Mad Magazine episode by spoofing Star Trek. They have Spock takes place on the Enterprise 1701 from the Strange New Worlds universe, and Spock is incorrectly showing bloopers reel, which is actually a series of violent, messed up things that are happening on the ship. There's numerous reasons why that's wrong, but when I mentioned earlier that juxtaposition is comedy, um, self-deprecating is funny. It's good comedy. They've apparently seen some of my things on comedy, and they put that in there. That line in there. I wasn't the first person to say that, though. It wasn't just me. I'm sure that they're from the same school of the comedy, so to speak. Sure the writers are probably my age, and they've written about oh, we saw this mean-spirited stuff on SNL, so we do this in the 80s. The first sketch in this little 4-minute clip is an ensign, a guy, a red shirt, beaming up to the ship, and his lower half is not beamed up, and he's dead. There's like guts flying out everywhere and stuff. How charming. Done in the animation style. And the crew is horrified. The crew standing there is horrified. And apparently it's set in the first season of Strange New Worlds, so Hammer is there, and Cadet Uhura is there. Then that's the first one. Yeah, that was the first one. The crew is horrified. It's not a bloopers reel. They try to explain to him that's not a blooper. That's just horrible. But it gets worse. Then there's one about. Let me see. No, okay. The next one they do is the self-deprecating one in which Spock's girlfriend dumps him. That's the joke. That is not a joke. That is an anti-joke. Often used in 90s comedies. It's not a joke. They're horrified by that. But, oh, it's funny because self-deprecating. No, that's not self-deprecating either, because if she just dumps him, that's a sitcom gag from a 90s sitcom. The writer of that piece must have been from the 90s, and or grew up in the 90s at least. The next one is after that is a weird sort of Star Trek Discovery era, just set before Stranger Worlds. Thing where they screw up and they show Saru in his uniform from the 31st century, 32nd century. He's on the bridge in the 32nd century uniform. How is that even possible? That uniform is destined way off in the future. How do they get footage from way off in the future? And how is the other person on Stranger Worlds his uncle died on the ship? And there's an in memoriam thing at the end. Explain to Spock that this is not a bloopers reel. Yeah. I do space. I've done Star Trek comedies and Starship Strange New Worlds. I've done the Starship Karmara and Starship Locations. I should say. I've done Starship Locations, Strange Worlds, and there's a Starship Location story. I've done these Transformers animated things. Currently rendering the Robotech meets Transformers. I know what comedy is, right? Done dozens of these things now. My humor tends to be more SNL from the 80s period. Back in the golden age of SNL beginning. I don't tend to do stuff that's super mean-spirited. In high school, when I was in high school, junior high and high school, I did. I did Star Trek cartoons that were very similar to that story, with the guy all dismembered on the transporter. I did a bunch of those jokes. I stole it from Mad Magazine, because there was a joke about that in there, Mad Magazine. I also had the saucer section decimated, careening down onto the planet, which they did twice in the Abrams movies, and they literally did the same gag in the Abrams movies. Also, we had a guy tossing up an apple up and down. That was one of Mark Skars's ideas. They put that in several Star Treks, including Next Generation. Within a week of the show, they put it in the episode. This guy tossing an apple and eating it. It's the Captain car or whatever. It's like, wow, that's just weird. So we were on the same wavelength, definitely. And the Borg being like, whatever, But yeah, humor is not. Yeah, I get what they're doing. They're making Spock, like they did with Kirk in the previous one, seem like he's not only clueless or socially awkward, which he's not really, but insane. And that's not, no. Comedy is still ordinary things happening to extraordinary people. I mean, you don't have, yeah, it's just, okay, the other one, maybe some people were a little too booty hurt on some respects, but still it didn't work either, for the same reason. Humor is not, what's weird is Lower Decks does a better job than these short treks. I don't know who's writing them, but yeah. So yeah, this was called Surprise. What was it? Party? Holiday Party. Holiday Party. I did a fan film short, which ended up a chapter in the Cillian thing called Romulan Holiday. It was a spoof of Roman Holiday, an old movie, in which the characters basically go over and dress up like Romulans to infiltrate a invasion of the Federation of the Romulans. It's a fun one. An X, and I wrote it years ago. It was awesome. But yes, I changed the names when I put it up on the thing, so it wasn't me. But yeah, anyway, so I had that was in '98 or something in that year, as a story, and then it was later rewritten as part of the collection of the strange the Star Trek, as written as part of the Cillian Realms saga. Yeah, a number of those stories ended up in there. But yeah, that's a juxtaposition. You wouldn't expect Starfleet people to dress up like Romulans and go on a ship. There's that was I was getting at. Didn't expect that. That's funny. How would they Yes, something like that. It comes back and he's a goofy character. That's the joke. The blooper is that he's a goofy character. Or how about this? Nothing kills him. The transporter just malfunctions, and it starts shooting something that isn't really a transporter. Water starts firing out of the bottom of it like a fountain, like splatters him up onto the roof of the transporter. Just out of nowhere, water. Just do that. There. That's funny. Okay. Spock and the girlfriend break up, sort of. He doesn't realize what's going on. Spock is not autistic. It makes no sense. They're trying to make him autistic. He's not autistic. Spock is just a half alien and a half human. And he subverts and guards his emotions. He's seething on the inside, but doesn't show it. Guards his emotions. He suppresses his emotions, as D.C. Fontana, the late D.C. Fontana said. Suppresses emotion, or A.S.E. Crispin in her books said that as well. Yeah, he doesn't. He has them. He just suppresses them. And the motion picture, he goes to the planet, to the Kolonor, and becomes like. Yeah. So, in order for that joke to work, the joke would have to be a juxtaposition of some kind. She dumps Spock for something ludicrous, like there's this. She's all, oh, this is my new boyfriend, and pans over, and it's like a something silly, something ridiculous. That would be funny. It's a It's a Gorn. That would be funny. The crew could be shocked and like, it's a Gorn. Ah, you know, ew. And it's like, blah. And it like sticks out its tongue and goes, licks her on the side of the face. See, that would be funny. It's a Gorn. It was like, okay, that'd be cool. Funny. Yeah. The last one with the crew, the ship exploding and the crew dying, and the memorial thing at the end, which doesn't make sense, and has a scene of a guy dressed in a uniform from the distant future. Have them remark, well, have an exploding ship. Have them remark, wait a minute, that uniform, we don't even recognize that guy. He's a uniform from a different timeline. Is this like footage from a different timeline or something? And then to have him go, I do not know, Captain. I found it on Star Trek or something. Or you have them show the proper uniforms, because of course Trekkies are nitpicks. and have them like the ship exploding, but ridiculously, like in cause and effect. It just keeps blowing up and blowing up and blowing up and blowing up. They did that, and then just cut the film. Don't show the memoriam thing that ruins the joke. It blows up over and over again. And then cut to him saying like, oh, my goodness, that's horrible. That starship exploded 18 million times. And you go, yes, but the joke is that it kept blowing up over and over again, Captain. There you go. There's the joke. Over and over and over. It was ridiculous. Yes. And nobody says, oh, my uncle was on the ship, because that's dumb. No, they just go, oh, yes, it exploded over and over again. Must have been an anomaly. See, then it's funny. Yeah, there you go. So they could have made this episode work. They just, it wasn't as mean spirited as this last one, but it was just a little off. They need to work on their delivery. The point is to not over-explain a joke. You need to work on your delivery. Now, sometimes you can over-explain a joke. Sometimes you can have Gilbert Gottfried making the grossest joke in the world, The Aristocrats. Classic comedy joke that only is for adults. But that's the joke there in The Aristocrats. It's so over the top and gross that's the joke. See, that's what they're trying to do here, but they and that it's gross, but gross just for gross sake is not funny. Or over the top gross is funny. Maybe instead of him being cut in half and stuff going everywhere, maybe he just turns into an amorphous blob and floats around the room, and then hits somebody in the face or something, and he goes, "Oh, I had some of instant glock in my mouth." Ah! You know, that would be funny. You know, sort of a ew. That would be gross. See there, that would something like that. Yeah. Sure. It just didn't, yeah, these episodes are odd. Although the Trek Yards guy's mentioning that it probably should have been called idioms or turn of phrase or something like that instead of skin a cat for the last one. Ew. Of course, if they wanted to be like ironic, they would have called this one or if they actually wanted to be clever, instead of calling it holiday party, which kind of doesn't make sense. You call it let's see, something holiday party makes no sense. Confusion or something. You know, what's grosser than gross? You know, because then yeah, I guess that does explain the joke. Yeah. Try not to do that. I did not laugh. This whole clip. Yeah. And it's not like I'm totally like autistic, because I am a little bit autistic. It's that it wasn't funny. It almost could have been funny. It just wasn't funny. The girlfriend part almost was funny. That was almost clever. But the tears running down whatever. It was almost funny. It almost worked. And there was a fourth blooper at the end where they show like a guy slipping and farting. Very juvenile, but that was the one that got a rise out of the Uhura character in the story. But Yeah, that wasn't particularly funny either, because the pratfall is one of the oldest forms of humor. You go back to some of the old silent movies and stuff from Irvington. It was the Irvington and Fremont area in Alameda County before it was Los Angeles in L.A. And they would do stuff like that, Charlie Chaplin and all that. It's not far from here, Irvington. Um, and it's like, wow, you guys are going way back to pre-vaudeville like that for a fart joke. Great. Now, if you're going to do a fart joke, here's a Cillian Realms fart joke. We had an episode called It was a parody of First Contact called Fist Contact or something like that. And then this one episode, they go back in time. The Enterprise D goes back in time to stop the Borg from invading the Earth. But they don't go back to First Contact. They go back to First Contact with my high school. So they go back to my high school, Pine Hill. Just totally nondescript, silly juxtaposition. No one would ever do that. The Star Trek people don't know us. They would never do that. Yeah, they don't really know us, but they seem to be on our wavelength. So they go back in time to the planet. But the joke, and then they come back. But the joke here is that it was a little bit earlier. It was a joke where Picard was having a nightmare about the Borg being inside him and stuff. But it's not a nightmare. In the Cillian version, he is in the ship's bathroom, which you never see, and he's making note in his log that he shouldn't have had the special because he thinks that Mr. Crusher, who was visiting, may have messed with the replicators, and he just thinks that he might have, or Q or something. It was Wesley, but so Wesley's walking around even though he wasn't in the movie, and he thinks he might have messed with the replicator. And he's having bowel problems. And the joke is that it's sort of like in one of those, top secret movie things or whatever. And he's like, he's just farting a lot because it'd be funny if stoic Captain Picard was farting a lot. See, that's funny. It's sort of like if the Queen back in the day, the late Queen, if she was farting, that would be funny. Like in they actually did my joke in 2 different Disney movies. Actually, it was Mark's Card's joke about the Queen farting. That's funny. Because if the Queen farts, that's funny. They did that in Minions, the movie, and in one other movie. And they kind of did it again in Dr. Dolittle, the remake, with the Robert Downey Jr. They kind of did it in there, too. It's like, wow, they have the Queen farting joke. I guess Mark's Card's really affected the Marvel universe there. But anyway, the joke is Picard's farting. That's the joke, and he's having this nightmare. He's straining on the can. He's not straining his face and looking like, oh, the Borg's coming. The joke is he's straining on the can. Comes out of the thing. Also another fart joke was back in the day in the classic era, the very final days, of the fart joke where everybody's lined up. The one bathroom on the Enterprise, classic Enterprise. The Kirk era Enterprise, like the movie era. There's an old one of the old crewmen is in there. It's probably Scotty. He's in there and he's like straining, and they're all lined up down the corridor, like 15, 16 guys lined down the corridor, and they're like they're like holding themselves, like waiting to get in there, and they're like, there's one bathroom on the whole ship. No, I must go where no man's gone before. What's going on in there, Mr. Spock? And Spock is all, Captain, it appears that Mr. Scott is having a problem. He should see Dr. McCoy. Oh, my warp cord is going to breach, Captain. See, that's funny. There you go, the poop joke. Let's see, what else is... they did sort of that gag with the gag reel of Star Trek V. You can probably find it online. They did that silly turbo lift that goes on forever. The turbo lift shaft, they fly up, it's like 70 levels going all the way, 75 levels going all the way up. The ship isn't only 21 decks, and the saucer section is only about 15 of those. So 12 of those? 12 maybe. 11 or 12 decks. It'd only be from the bottom of the saucer up to the top part of the neck thing. So it really would only be maybe 12 levels, but they wanted to make it dramatic. So the gag was that they had a bunch of guys lined up, and they had like one of those circus carnival things where you use the big mallet and you whack it, and the mallet launches the bung up to the top of the bell and rings the bell. So he got like a bolt, and it goes up to the bell, and bong, and you win a prize. Bong. So these guys, all the crew, are lining up to launch Spock and Kirk up the turbo shaft over and over again on the bong, bong. That was funny. That was funny. It was generally funny. The classic Star Trek Belushi sketch. Classic Belushi sketch. The original classic Trek Belushi sketch. He's on the bridge of the Enterprise and the show's been canceled. The joke is he just doesn't want to leave, so he's on the... I'm captain of the Enterprise. I'm staying here in my chair. And they're like tearing the set down behind him. It's just like... That's funny. Jim Carrey in the Mad TV Living Color, where he comes out and he's all... And it's the geriatric Enterprise, and he's like, damn it, and you're where's McCoy at? You know, Spock and Jim Carrey and all that. And McCoy opens up the bay, and there's a skeleton of Dr. McCoy. It's this skeleton. It's before he died. It's before he died. And the skeleton is like, damn it, Jim, I'm a corpse, not a doctor. So they weren't making fun of him dying. They were making fun of, like, he's a corpse, not a doctor. But yeah, Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, when he goes inside the empty aquarium and he's like, Captain's log, stardate 4269. And he's like talking into the thing, and they're like, what the hell is he doing? Let's see. Carol Burnett show. Classic Carol Burnett show. Gender swap. In the 80s, the crew gender swapped into the 80s into Carol Burnett and her crew. They go into an anomaly estrogen anomaly that turns them into women. Very progressive for 1980 something, and not at all homophobic. Well, a little homophobic, but in a playful way. And they were like, oh god, Carol Burnett's all like transformed into Kirk is now a chick, and he's all, oh my god, I have this strange feeling. Feeling. And she's like, ooh. And Spock is all like, Captain, I believe my emotions are running wild. And he's been turned into a woman. And then they pan over, and Uhura's a dude. And they're all, what about, it was a Klingon ship attacking them when they went into the nebula. So the Klingon ship is chasing them, Klingon guy. And the gag is that at the end, the Klingon is transformed into basically kind of a TNG Klingon, but he's in drag, and he's got like this gigantic space Madonna, that probably looked like a Madonna prop boobs, and he's all like, Captain Kirk, you have made me realize a new way of thinking. I'll leave you. What? And then he leaves the screen, and they're all like, oh, did you see what she was wearing? Oh God! And then it ends. Great Carol Burnett sketch. Do something like that. Come on. Let's say do some Star Trek humor.